Greetings builders, Daniel here and welcome to another top 3 video, where every week I choose a topic and show you my 3 favorite builds of it. In today's team is for those who like to destroy big bosses in less than a second. I'm talking about the boss killer builds. And if you wanna try any of those, you can find links for POBs and complete guides in the video description. And if this video helps you, please leave a thumbs up to support the channel. Thank you very much and let's get into it! The first build of our boss killer selection is the amazing Archer Skeleton's Guardian with the Templar class. I'm pretty sure that at this point you all know the very popular Mage Skeletons build. Well, with the new Transfigured Gems, we now also have the Archer Skeletons. So I spent my weekend trying them out and I got this super fun build as a result. I hope you guys all enjoy it. To list the pros of this build, I would start with how balanced it is. Unlike the Mage Skeletons, this build has a much smoother clear speed and can do even more damage to bosses. This build also is not complicated to put together, we only need one mandatory unique item that is pretty cheap. Above all, as a Guardian, we still have 3 damage auras for free and a minion that takes 20% of the damage for us. Now, to list the cons, I'll start saying that even though this build is still very tanky and safe, it's not as tanky as the Mage Skeleton staff version because it has less block chance. But don't worry, if you mind your position, it will be hard for you to die. As for budget, this build is pretty cheap. You can get it destroying early endgame maps with only around 80 chaos. To comfortably advance to yellow maps, I recommend investing around 150 chaos, and for easily completing your Atlas, I recommend investing around 4 divines, but you can totally do it with less. Don't forget that on PoEbuilds.net you can find a list with all the equipment that you need to buy for this build, with direct links for examples being sold by other players. You only need one mandatory unique item for this build, the Lion Eyes Vision Armor that already grants the peer support and allows us to have one more support gem for our skeletons. For clear speed I'll give it 9 out of 10. We have many Archer skeletons firing many arrows with high attack speed, and unlike the Mage Skeletons version that uses the spell Echo, here we can easily cast 4 skeletons at a time in different locations and increase a lot their angle of destruction. The boss damage is amazing, deserves 10 out of 10. The gameplay you're watching is destroying those endgame bosses in a few seconds and it's only using the Determination aura. But if you're playing on the Affliction League, you can use the Spectre of the Guardian Turtle for a free Determination aura and use Pride for a lot more damage. For this survivability, I'll give it 9 out of 10. As a minion build, you stay far from the engine while they tank and kill everything for you. It's a very safe playstyle. But this build also counts with over 90,000 effective HP because of high armor, block chance and a minion that takes 20% of the damage for you. I only took 1 point out because since we're not using the staff like the Mage Skeletons version, we end up with less block chance and effective HP. Next we have this OP build that is the master of the shotgun effect, the Venom Gyre Deadeye with the Ranger class. Venom Gyre is a very interesting skill which fires a projectile that hits enemies and returns to you, piercing and dealing damage to everything on its path. When the projectile successfully returns to you, you can keep and stack them up to 30 times, and they will all be released at once when you use the Whirling Blades movement skill. To list the pros of this build, I wouldn't even know where to start. It counts with an amazing clear speed, boss damage and a big effective HP. Above all, it's cheap and easy to put together, it doesn't require any mandatory unique item. Now, to list the cons is the real challenge here. It's hard to find something not to like on this build. However, I would say that as most builds, this one is also vulnerable to chaos damage, unless of course you invest on chaos resistance gear. As for budget, this build is cheap, you can get it destroying early endgame maps with only around 90 chaos. To comfortably advance to yellow maps, you need to invest around 120 chaos, and for easily completing your Atlas, I recommend investing around 4 divines. For clear speed, I'll give this build 10 out of 10. The Venom Gyre projectile already has an expensive nature for the amount of time it stays dealing damage on screen. Now, with a Deadeye that grants a lot of speed and many buffs to projectiles, the result is what you're seeing on this tier 16 gameplay. The boss damage is also a 10 out of 10. You can use Vol Venom Gyre to instantly have 50 stacked projectiles and delete bosses with an amazing shotgun effect using Whirling Blades on them. It's just unreal and I can't believe it wasn't nerfed again. For this survivability, I'll give it 9 out of 10. This build counts with over 80,000 effective HP because of high armor, high evasion, spell suppression and block chance. Finally, we have the strongest Val skill for bosses, the Val Ice Shot Deadeye with the Ranger class. Ice Shot is an awesome archer skill that freezes the whole screen of enemies, granting many explosions. Just as I did with the Lightning Arrow and the Tornado Shot build, the complete guide of this one will also count with two versions of this build, a budget and a complete one. Each has its own POB and passive tree, so you can start this build even on a low budget and upgrade it later. To list the pros of this build, I would start with how strong Val Ice Shot is. When you use it on bosses, you won't even need your ballistas to obliterate them in less than a second. The clear speed is also outstanding, killing many monsters with only one shot. Now, to list the cons, I would say that this build is not very tanky. Even though you have some defensive layers, it's important to take advantage of your ranged attacks and stay far from danger. If you don't mind your position, you might die. About the budget, you can get it destroying early in-game maps with only around 80 chaos. To comfortably advance to yellow maps, I recommend investing around 150 chaos, and for easily completing your atlas, I recommend investing around 4 divines. But if you go for the complete version, you need to invest at least 4 more divines. On the budget version, you only need one mandatory unique item for this build, the Yoke of Suffering amulet that causes all of your elemental damage to shock. This way our enemies take a lot more damage. On the complete version, on the other hand, besides the Yoke of Suffering, you also need the Lionized Fall and the Thread of Hope unique jewels. They are expensive but grant a huge boost to your damage. For clear speed, I'll give it 10 out of 10. You fire many projectiles with high attack speed, and those projectiles chain on enemies, bounce off walls and go everywhere, freezing and exploding them. It's just amazing. The boss damage is also great and deserves 10 out of 10. As I said, Val Ice Shot is probably the strongest Val skill and can destroy bosses easily. Above all, you can also count with your ballistas for a lot more damage. For the survivability, I'll give this build 8 out of 10. Even though you have armor, evasion, spell suppression and can kill enemies from a good distance, this build isn't very tanky. If you don't mind your position, you might die. And that's it for today, guys. What did you think about those boss killer builds? Please take a second to tell me in the comments and leave a thumbs up to support the channel. I wish you guys an amazing day, and don't forget to keep building!